So, Prof, I'd like to ask you a double header before we open up to the floor for additional questions. AI has come up quite a bit in algorithms, and that is your area of expertise. And so perhaps if you could speak a little bit about your latest work, its relevance to this conversation, and what it is an audience like this needs to be thinking about artificial intelligence and racism. But also in your role as an educator, one of the things that has come up repeatedly is the difficulty of the people who are creating this technology, who are monitoring it, who are meant to correct it, perhaps don't come from communities that many of the people in this room would come from, and so that there's a gap or a lack of knowledge about the realities of race and racism. How do we make tech spaces, how do we educate to make tech spaces more accessible to young people and to get more people working towards the vision that Tinmari was speaking about?
No, thank you very much. When I came back to South Africa 18 years ago, after having completed a PhD in artificial intelligence, I was very excited. I never thought artificial intelligence was biased. But last year I went to Thohoyandou. I come from Thohoyandou in the northern part of this country. And because I have a large family, I actually used Airbnb to book myself. And the way you do, you put all your details and it asks you for the picture for your ID, and then it verifies your ID against whatever you have put. And then it says, take a selfie. That was where the problem started. Because it was matching my selfie to the picture in the ID. It turns out that for African faces, the algorithm does not work very, very well. So I was quite devastated. And then a few months back, one of my deputies gave me a device that I can speak to. Oscar, I have actually shown you this device. So I can ask it, so how's the weather outside? Play Me Tuma Mina by Yuma Skela. And it does all that. Then I ask it, who is Tshilidzi Marwala? Say, sorry, I do not understand you. So maybe there is a mistake, and I repeated it again, and he still could not understand me. Then I say, who is the author of Skynet in the market? Then he said Tshilidzi Marwala with an American accent. I'm not lying. I tried to fake an American accent. I think I succeeded at the 10th time. And again, it almost reminded me of a story about my grandfather, whom 80 years ago had to change his name from Chamano to Jack, because his boss could not be able to pronounce Chamano. So I was wondering, if I had changed my name to Jack, perhaps it will be able to hear me. So all this actually indicate biases in all this. Why do we have biases on this? It's because it turns out for the face recognition technology, the faces that are used to train this artificial intelligence were primarily gathered in North America and Europe. And therefore, they are very good at recognizing Caucasian faces, but they are quite bad at recognizing African faces. Sounds like discrimination, isn't it? Now, traditionally in South Africa, especially now that we are at the center of Madiba, what kind of activists do we need to be able to fight this type of discrimination? Madiba used to organize demonstrations, defiance campaigns, and so on and so forth. Maybe that's not what we are supposed to do. What we are supposed to do is to get linguists for the speech recognition tool, engineers, scientists, basically a new type of activist who are there when these technologies are being made. I think that is actually quite important. They have to be there, they have to be participants, and they also have to generate these technologies. They have to be, if Facebook or if Google is not gathering information about us, it's probably our responsibility to to start thinking about, not even just start thinking, actually to start doing. How do we close this gap to make sure that this thing does not repeat itself? I think that is quite crucial. The archives that these databases are acquiring are biased. You know, our languages are not represented. A few years ago, when I was still very active as a professor, me and my student this must be 10 years ago, were designing a piece of a machine that you speak to it in Xhosa, and it is supposed to translate it into English. And for a long time, it just never worked. And then we found out that no, the reason why it does not work is that Xhosa is actually not one language, for those of you who are linguists. It's actually a combination of Bantu languages, you know, and whenever Xhosa is not clicking, it sounds like any other Bantu language. And then it has these clicks, and these clicks, despite the stereotypes, are not frequent. Xhosa is actually not a clicking language. It clicks sometimes, so somebody will speak, and then click, and click. And the algorithm actually takes those clicks as noise. And what does it say to us is that we need to design algorithms that understand that this language has clicks, and these clicks are not frequent. Nolita, they are not frequent, and so on and so forth. So what we need to do is we need to educate. I think education is really the basis of all this. We need to educate people to be able to understand this. We need to understand, we need to educate in a multidisciplinary fashion. The idea of technologists designing speech translation system without linguists is problematic. And if we are going to educate engineers who only understand engineering, and then they don't understand culture, they don't understand language, then what we are going to have, we're going to have these devices that are probably biased because the people who are designing them simply do not have the expertise to be able to deal with its usage holistically. You know, because when you deploy technology, you deploy it in society. And unless our graduates understand society, then they are not going to be able to design better products. And I think that is very, very key. And as South Africa, we are not very good at multidisciplinarity. We tend to like to educate engineers who only know about engineering. It's important for us to educate engineers who understand language, who understand, who read literature, who understand art, so that whenever they become designers of these devices, they're going to design them holistically.